Hello, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. Welcome back to the Sober is Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pop Buchanan, and today I'm really excited to bring our special guest, John Evans, to the Sober is Dope podcast. John is considered as the corporate action hero, and I want to read a brief bio from our friend John. John's background as a stuntman, fight director, college professor, artistic director, and comedian makes him an intriguing guest that draws audience in and delivers real world techniques for overcoming self imposed limitations and achieving maximum potential, even in times of adversity. After a serious back injury that left him paralyzed, John developed his 5F system of achievement. The system hacks the fight or flight response, shortening learning curves and increasing successful outcomes. Using the system, he regained his mobility and went on to perform over 4,000 live comedy sword fighting shows in 16 countries around the world. John now is a highly sought after keynote speaker known as the corporate action hero. He delivers empowering programs to organizations globally. His programs are unique, out of the box, and use bullwhips and nunchucks to deliver his message. John has a studio set up, and he's a professional like no other. I am excited to have him on the podcast today. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, I'm going to bring in our friend John Davis, stuntman, keynote speaker, comedy, sword fighting, college professor, comedian, fight director, and inventor and creator of the 5F system and technique. Hold on, let's bring in our friend John. Hello. Hello. There
Hello.
we go. Yes, I can hear you very well. How are you?
I am doing great. I had to wait for my my mic to kick in to Zoom.
Okay. You have a really good microphone. Wow.
Oh, it's actually a cheap one.
Really?
It's yeah, $99 AT2020.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Here's the secret though.
Right.
It's running into a Mackie Pro FX6 mixer instead of
got it.
that mixer makes all the difference in the world.
All right. Well, you gonna have you send me those specs so I could get that.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of cool though. The mic was 99. That thing was only 140.
Oh wow. Yeah. See.
Yeah.
Right. It's just all about knowing.
You don't have to have it. Yeah,
That's
you don't
right.
have to have it. I should tell you about this thing I'm talking to you on though. That's the
Right.
more impressive thing.
Right.
This is actually a camera. Looks pretty good, huh?
It looks great. Yes. It looks like HD and stuff.
This is a Logitech C920 webcam.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's a $60 webcam, but the deal is that I got a hold of a software that lets me actually tweak the image and turn off certain things.
Nice.
So,
I have a Logitech. I don't know which one it is, but that's what I'm on a Logitech also.
Yeah. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Oh, good. Oh, so listen,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you everything right now, real quick.
Okay. All right.
Write this down.
I got it.
Ecamm Live.
Ecamm Live.
It's going to cost you about $70 a year.
Okay.
Right. Everything that you're seeing right now is running from Ecamm Live. Right.
Got it.
And I can if I was doing my podcast, I would click a button and my intro would play.
Really?
Video. Oh yeah, you could have scenes and everything else. Right?
Oh man, yes.
Yeah. So when I record something, I click and I just record it all at once. It's all done. When I hit end, it's done.
Nice.
It's in the can. Ecamm is made for Mac, which is what I'm on too.
Right.
And then you have to get, because of the way audio works in Ecamm, you have to get it's called Black Magic. Let me see it. Black Hole. Okay. Black Hole 16 channel.
16 channel.
So, and basically what you use is the virtual cam through Ecamm. So what you're seeing from me right now is the virtual cam out of Ecamm.
Nice.
And the sound coming through Black Hole.
Got it.
And then the Ecamm, I've got my mixer as the mic,
Okay.
and I got my Logitech as the camera.
Nice. All right. You got a good
Yeah.
setup. I like that. Wow. Well, thank you very much. I'm
Yeah,
always
man.
looking to upgrade. I'm always looking to upgrade. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. What's your name? I only know you as
Yes.
Sober.
Right. So I'm Pop Buchanan, and I'm the
Pop?
host. Pop, yes, Pop,
Oh, cool.
P-O-P.
Nice.
Right. I was
Nice.
born Joseph Buchanan,
Uh-huh.
but Pop Buchanan is like my stage name, and it's also a name my family gives me since I was a kid. So when I decided to do a podcast about sobriety, telling my story, I wanted to share it with the world as if they was my family. So I brought them in with the
Right.
theme of Pop to make it more personal. And so I'm known as Pop Buchanan. I'm the founder of Sober is Dope, which is a podcasting company. We deal with everything from mental health to sobriety to motivation, productivity, and just encouraging people to thrive in recovery and to
Right.
take their life back. So we've been around for about 2 years. We have about 250 episodes. You're
Wow.
part of a beautiful panel of guests. We have everyone from Dr. Rob Kelly, Zach Scow. We did stuff with Razcast, a lot of artists, a lot of doctors. We have a lot of good people on Sober is Dope that want to give back and help the community. A lot of nice authors and stuff like that. So I'm excited to interview you today. You're a perfect fit for our audience, right? Because it's a very diverse audience.
Right.
It's just incredible to be here talking to you and to meet you today. So I'm very excited.
We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. Now I will tell you, my grandfather died of cirrhosis of the liver, and he passed that on down to my father. My father was a drinker and an abuser, and it didn't make it to me. So
Wow, that's good.
yeah,
You breaking the generational curse. We say in the church, we like to say that sometimes it takes one person to stop and say,
yep.
no, not with me. The buck stops here, right?
Well, there was a my parents had 7 kids, and my sister has a drinking problem, and we work with her every day on that. But none of the rest of us did, and actually several of us, after seeing what my grandfather and father went through,
Right,
several of us don't drink at all. I don't drink at all, and I
right.
drank for about 5 years when I was in my early 20s, and then I just didn't like it. I
It
just
wasn't
stopped.
for you, right?
It
Right.
wasn't for me. Right.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, thank you. And it goes, it's good for people to hear that you can make a conscious choice, right? Despite your familiar background, despite the claims of genetics and addiction, you could decide to say, well, I'm not doing that. And that's a
Right.
beautiful
Right.
thing.
So the question I have for you, before we get into this, I consider myself a very spiritual person,
Right. Me too.
um, and I was raised Catholic, but my mom was very open when I turned 18 to say, find your own way.
Right.
And I started studying all religions, and
Okay.
I started finding my universal truths. Is there any?
No, no.
Okay.
You and I could dance all day. I studied everything. Well, I was born Catholic. My brother's a Catholic priest, retired
Oh,
actually.
wow, we have a lot in common. My mom had her master's degree in liturgy and was head
Nice.
of liturgical doctrine at her church.
Wow, great, great. Yeah, my family's diehard Catholics. And we have a great Christian background. And me, when I was younger, I was like, you know what? My exploration of God has to be more than this. I have to go into the world. I studied everything from Taoism to Tao Te
Mm.
Ching, studied a lot of Zen, the sufferings, the four sufferings. We studied stuff under the Kabbalion, Egyptology. I dabbled in everything from ancient Anunnaki to figuring out the origins of the earth, from Zechariah Sitchin all the way back to finding peace through meditation and Christ consciousness. And so
Oh,
we're in a good space.
we're gonna have a great time, man,
Right.
because you're speaking my lingo.
All right. So first and foremost, I already did an introduction. We're actually live, so I'll edit out some pieces. So I just want to kind of dive right into it, so to say, because you're a very amazing person, because you overcame a lot, especially with your back injury, and I want to get into that in your system. But first, I want to welcome you. So welcome to the Sober is Dope podcast, John. Ladies and gentlemen, we have John Davis here, as you all heard quite recently. He's a stuntman, keynote speaker, the corporate action hero, comedy, sword fighting, stuntman, college professor, comedian, fight director, creator of the 5F system, and he is the man. And I'm very excited to have him here today. So, John, let's start out on a basic level, can you just tell us a little bit about you and how you come into all of this great, stuff that you present to the world?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for promoting me to the man. Anyway, um, back when I was a young boy, I had this dream of being Errol Flynn. I wanted to be doing sword fights and swinging from trees and doing all that crazy thing. And by the time I got into my early 20s, I had found a way to do that. I started doing Renaissance festivals, and I ended up meeting two of the top fight directors in the world. And they saw me with talent, and they thought that they could help me, and they offered me their training for free. And I started getting very much into doing martial arts and stage combat and sword fights and all that work. And then when I was 22 years old, a friend of mine asked me to come out to his house and help him unload his van that was filled with boxes of clay. He was a professional potter, 80-pound boxes of clay.
Wow.
I climbed up in that van. Now, meanwhile, at this point, I was buff. I was strong. I had long Fabio hair in those days, right? I was looking the part. I was really feeling great. I was looking at this van as just another workout, really.
Correct.
And I climbed up in that van. I picked up that first box. I turned to set that box outside of the van, and my upper body separated from my lower body.
Wow.
And I literally, my spine split in two. I collapsed. It pinched off my spinal column. They hauled me to the doctor, and I was informed that I had a condition known as spina bifida occulta, which when they told me that, I promptly said Gesundheit. I had no idea what that meant, but what that basically means is three of my vertebrae never formed properly at birth. And so I had this part right above my pelvis that was just not a stable back. And when I twisted with that extra 80 pounds of weight that day, I broke my spine in half.
Wow.
And so the doctor told me that day, you're done. You're done. There's no physical career for you. There's no stunt work. There's no sword fighting. There's no physical anything. You start looking for a sedentary career for the rest of your life. And at 22 years old, and when your dream has been to be a stuntman and a fight director and do all that kind of work, that takes you to some pretty dark places.
Right.
And I did. I went into some very dark places. I didn't commit, but I was considering suicide, and I was going down that route in a very, very bad way. And then a buddy of mine, on the outside, it kind of looks like a cruel joke, but he came into my hospital room and he handed me a book. And the book was The Tao of Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee.
Wow, nice. Right.
Well, here's a martial artist who was just told that he'll never do martial arts again.
Right.
And the guy gives him a martial arts book. Right. I'm like, oh my God. Right. But that book was life-changing for me, because when Bruce wrote that book, he was in traction and had just been told he would never do martial arts again.
Wow.
While he couldn't do martial arts, he wrote about martial arts. And the book is really, it's about Jeet Kune Do, but it's more about his philosophy of martial arts.
Right.
And one of the things that really hit home for me was the mental flexibility aspect and the being very present aspect.
Right.
And so what happened was I decided to become very present and leverage my present moment. Whatever happened in my past, I had to set it down, let it go.
Right.
Whatever this doctor was trying to tell me about my future, I couldn't let it be my truth. Right.
Correct.
So right here in this moment, I had to start leveraging my present moment. So on day one, I started flexing my upper back muscles, because those are the ones that I could.
Okay.
Right. And then over the course of time, I started flexing muscles further down my back. And then one day I was able to flex my hips, and the doctors were amazed.
Wow.
Because I was past the injury. Right.
Correct.
At day 30, I was able to sit up.
Amazing.
They were blown away. By another month and a half or 2 months, I was able to walk down the hall.
Okay.
Basically, could go to the bathroom on my own, which was new.
Right.
Right. And then long story short, at a year and 6 months, I climbed up on top of a 3-story tower and I jumped off into a fall pad.
Wow.
And I went on and I did over 4,000 live comedy sword fighting shows all over the world, including the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan on 6 USO tours. I have done sword fights. I have done high falls. I've done zip lines. I've done rope swings. I have been on fire. I have done just amazing physical things my entire life, and have never looked back.
That's so incredible. Wow. God bless you. I mean, that's amazing because that's a true testament of mind over matter, right?
Yeah.
And using the body to heal because we have this spiritual energy. They call it the prana energy, the chi, the soul, the spiritual energy. But people sometimes are so disconnected from that. But when you're stuck in these extreme circumstances, that's all you have. You're sitting there with yourself and then your mind could totally destroy you or build you, right? We have the power, that creative godlike power to destroy ourselves or build ourselves up, based on the thoughts that we think and what we say to ourselves. And you chose to do the impossible and to be incredible, and you healed yourself. That's amazing. What did you go on a permanent healing? Like the doctors, like this is your spine fine today? Is
It's funny. The doctors wanted to put a pin in my back, and I turned them down
Okay.
because by putting a pin in my back, that would have created a rigid part of my back, which meant I wouldn't be able to do high falls or rolls.
Right.
So I started doing yoga, started exercising my
Right.
back, I started
Right.
walking. And what I basically did was I strengthened my back to hold my back together. And that doesn't mean that I didn't have back issues throughout my career.
Right.
Yeah, I did occasionally have back issues, but I never missed a show. I never
Yes.
missed any show ever for a back injury. In fact, the biggest issue that I had over my career was in compensating for my back. I was spraining ankles right and left.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
I would wear ankle braces and knee braces in all my shows just to hold my knees and my ankles together. So
Right.
because I was compensating so much for my back. The interesting thing, I like what you said about that spiritual energy. When I look at my spiritual beliefs, and I combine it with my scientific beliefs,
Right.
we only live in one conscious moment, and it's the moment that we're in. It's the moment that we can only do the three biggies: thought, word, and deed.
Right.
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 Your past is just a collection of present moment memories that create an underlying subconscious belief. Your future is a place where you set goals for your next present moment, but
Right.
your present moment is the only one that you can do anything.
Correct.
And Buddha said, "What you think you become, you create your world." Gandhi
Right.
said, "You must be the change you want to see in the world."
Right.
Krishna said, "You are the culmination of your thought,"
Right.
which I think is a fascinating one.
Correct.
But Jesus said, "Whatever you ask in God's name is granted." And then Moses said, God's name was I am. And
Mm.
I am is a present moment statement. It's not I will be, it's not I
Right.
was. I
Correct.
am. And
Right.
amen means so be it, means right here, right now. Done.
Correct.
Right.
Done. Right.
So for me to sit in this present moment, I had to say in this present moment, saying, I am a stuntman. I
Right.
am going to be a stuntman. I am getting today. I am flexing my back muscles. I couldn't
Wow.
get into the I am broken. I am with
Right.
a bad back. Could not get into that kind of creative statement because
Correct.
those kind of creative statements create that negativity,
Right.
that result. And so I had to stay very present and stay very much into that concept of here and now I am creating and being part of creation.
I love that so much. I love that so much because that brings me to a lot of things, like especially when I was studying the aspects of the law of attraction, like the purest aspects of it, like your thoughts become things, right? And even Wayne Dyer, he said it best: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change, right?
Right.
And for me in my recovery, I was in a dark moment where I was pretty much felt like I was going to die. It was 1 week of my life where everything started shutting down. My body, I felt like my organs, I just couldn't keep it together. I lost everything, and I was just a normal kid, went to school, came out, had a really good job in real estate, made a bunch of money, but made a bunch of bad mistakes. Somehow addiction took me down this dark rabbit hole, and I found myself with no support, and I had everything around me: girlfriend, family, life, house, everything. I was young. And in that moment, I had to just get on my knees and say, I had to make a decision in that moment. It was so critical. It was that present reality. Like, you can die in this moment or you can choose to live. But if you do, you have to really make a decision. You can't play games in this, because this is the creation and the death energy, right? It was like, you're either going to die or you could create something new. And I got on my knees and I said, I'm done. Whatever I had to do from this moment on to get this addiction off of my back, to rebuild my life, God, give me the power, help me. I had to surrender in a way, because as much as I knew about God, it didn't help because it made me kind of more intellectually obnoxious when it came to faith. It created a God complex. I thought I knew it all through dogma and doctrine, but I wasn't using the actual knowledge. I was being pretty much, you know, a prick, for a lack of a better word. And I was just disgracing everything that I was raised around. So I had to get on my knees in that moment and give it up. And that's real. And I'm still living out that moment. See, it's reverberating throughout my life now and continuously, because I have no desire to drink. I created this whole platform to share because it's important, because I know it's someone else coming right behind me that didn't intend to hit rock bottom, but they're there, right? And they feel like their life is over. Same way you could have looked at it, but you took it in a beautiful way. You flipped it. That brings me to a system, your 5F system, which this excites me, right? This is my thing. So everyone in the Sober Dope podcast that's listening, they hear me talk about the fight or flight, the parasympathetic and sympathetic response all day and every day, right? So we know that we want to stay in the sympathetic response, that rest and digest. That's when the healing happens. That's when we can really do our work. But a lot of that gets shut down. We stay in this constant fear response, right? The fight, flight, or run, or the parasympathetic response. So your system hacks the fight or flight response.
Yes.
Right? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I'm all excited to tell you about this.
Right.
It's the thing that I love talking about the most, actually, because this is the thing that has let me achieve everything that I've done in my life. And I mean, I've worked with movie stars, and I've been to 30 countries. I climbed Mount Sinai. I've done like amazing things in my life, all because of the fact that of this 5F system. And you said it perfectly when you said you actually said the words "in fear."
Right.
You know, when people get in fear, they're inside of something, so they don't feel like they have control of something that they're inside of.
Right.
They don't have their hand on the wheel of it, right? So the first thing people have to do to hack the fight or flight response is recognize that they're in fear. You know, and once you recognize it and you label it, it is now external. You're no longer in it because you've labeled it, so now it's outside.
Right.
I can actually grab it. It's now got my hands on it.
Correct.
The second thing is that to break a fear response, the first thing you have to do is you have to realize that it is a primal response that everybody goes through. We take our our fight or flight response judges every circumstance of our life. And so we literally, you know, sometimes it might not be life or death, but we're going to, you know, is that drink going to taste like crap? You know, that's the smallest version. It's another fight or flight response.
Correct.
But the interesting thing is, you know, in spirituality, there's a lot of talk about breath, and breathing, the breath of God, right? The number one physical response of the fight or flight response is the gasping of air, right? If you ever watch National Geographic shows, there's always that one with that poor doomed gazelle that's out there eating the grass in the field, crunch, 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 crunch. And then the tiger hits the field, and the first thing you see is the gazelle gasp for air. Right.
Correct.
Well, most people, when they're in fear, feel like they can't breathe. They can't get a deep breath.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing is, because of you're in the primal reaction, your body it's not that it can't get air. It's that your body is full of air and it's not letting any more in.
Wow.
Right. Okay. It's a very interesting flip response, right?
Correct.
Actors on Broadway are literally trained that if they forget their lines, that they are supposed to exhale and relax all their muscles.
Oh, okay.
And it shuts off the response, and all their lines come rushing right back into their head.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's an amazing. So first thing, label it, recognize what it is.
Right.
Now, here's another thing that makes it easier is the definition of what fear really is. When you ask anybody, when I ask audiences all over the world, what is fear? The room goes silent.
Correct.
every time.
Right.
And then somebody, and I'm sure you've heard this, somebody will say, false evidence appearing real.
right.
You'll hear that all the time, right?
Right.
I don't buy it. I don't buy that at all, because when you break it down on a scientific level, fear is an emotional reaction to some future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome.
Wow. Love it. Spot on.
Right?
Wow.
So if you want to break it down even shorter, it's negatively focused on certainty.
Okay. Nice. I like that. Okay. Wow.
So fear is just negatively focused, because if you were focused on something positive, you wouldn't be afraid.
Correct.
You'd be excited, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So it's just negative. So that being said, if it's some future event that may or may not happen, fear is not rooted in your present moment. It's rooted somewhere else. It's not where you are.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
So now you have this concept of fear is just emotion, which is a huge, huge factor, right?
Right.
So when I was on the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan, I asked the soldiers in the field, I said, how can you go into a firefight or go into a mission and know that you might get shot at or blown up? And they said two things. First thing, we all breathe deep. All right. So they actually said they breathe, right?
Correct.
He said the second thing is it's easy for us because we have an objective. We can focus ourselves somewhere else. So the first of the 5 F's is fearlessness. The second one is focus. Right. What you're going to focus on. And I can tell you from experience, when you're standing on top of a 3-story tower and you're looking down at the pad,
right,
you're not focused on the tower.
Right. Correct.
You're focused on where you're going to land, right?
Right.
So you're focused on the positive outcome. Now, I'm sure that you know negative people.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
We all know negative people.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about negative people is they always have something to be negative about.
Yes.
And the reason they always have something to be negative about is because their focus is on negativity.
Right.
And our subconscious mind literally is designed to help us achieve whatever we focus on.
Yes.
And I'll give your audience a great example.
Right.
So if anybody in this audience has ever bought a car and they chose what kind of car they wanted to buy before they went out to buy it, did you notice that you started seeing that kind of car everywhere?
Yep. That happens.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It happens.
So your conscious choice chose the car. Your subconscious mind started showing it to you to help you achieve it. Right. So that's how the subconscious mind helps you achieve. So if you are focused negatively, the world will look negative. And so you've got to consciously look at the positive and focus on the positive. We're lucky, though, because our world, as messed up as some things are, our world is predominantly positive.
Yes.
And the example I like to give is, like, I live in Akron, Ohio, and Cleveland is 30 miles north. If I was to drive and commute to Cleveland every day, I'd probably pass 1,000 cars on the road on the way there. And maybe one car a day might be off to the side of the road with a fender bender, maybe, right? We'll just say one. So tonight on the news, what they're going to focus on is the anomaly.
Yes.
The thing that's different. They're going to focus on the car on the side of the road.
Correct.
What should be the number one story is that 999 cars made it safely to their destination without a problem.
Right.
Correct. Right.
Correct.
The world is predominantly positive. So how you focus is what you're going to experience.
Yes.
And in Christianity, they would call that reaping and sowing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What you reap, you sow. So, or sowing and reaping. So fearlessly focus. And when you look at the number 5, there's one number in the middle that kind of holds up everything else. It's the main pillar of it all, and that's faith, belief, confidence.
Confidence, right.
And you can get your faith from spirituality. You can get your faith from anywhere, as long as your faith is true confidence in what you're doing. Believe it.
Right.
When I was getting out of that bed, I couldn't put my faith in what the doctor was saying.
Right.
I had to put my faith in what I was going to do, what I was creating.
Right. Right.
In the Bible, it says whatever you ask in God's name is granted. It nowhere in there does it say whatever you ask in my name is granted if I think you're worthy of it, or it doesn't say anything like that. It says whatever you ask in God's name is granted. Okay, so God is going to lovingly give you whatever you ask for. Now, asking is done through prayer, through belief. Really, what you focus on, your belief is your focus, right? So if you're believing and focusing on negative, God's lovingly going to show you negative things because that's what you're focused on. That's what you're asking for.
Correct.
So that's how I see it. Some people may disagree with that assessment, but that's the way I see it in my belief system. So we got fearlessly focused with faith, right? The next one's the hardest one of all of them.
Yeah.
Literally the hardest one. Follow through.
Wow.
you actually got to do something.
Right.
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 So once you start doing this process, you've already broken out of the fight or flight response by putting fear down in the first step, right?
Right. Right.
You're going to the second one, and your focus is helping you keep it at bay, right?
Right.
Your faith hardens you against it. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
I can dismiss it now because that's not what I'm doing, right?
Right. Right.
But then you have to take an action. And the reason it's the hardest is because that shifting into deed, thought, word, and deed, that shifting into deed is where your fears can pop back up.
Oh, right. All right.
Right.
Okay. Right. Right.
So you're there in that moment, and your fear is starting to pop back up. So you have to, what do you do at that moment? You exhale, you breathe,
Right.
and you get focused on the action. And then you have to realize something else. A lot of people sit in their present moment and they think of this giant goal that they're trying to get to. And that giant goal is sitting out there, and in their mind, they're thinking, I have to get to it.
Correct.
But that's not the way the brain works. The brain only is here in the present moment. So in this present moment, your job is to make small, very successful moments. And what happens is the small present moment successes start to draw that experience to you. And then when you find the experience, it's going to be in your present moment.
Right.
But here's the coolest part.
Right.
If you can stay fully focused and you stack on real present positive moments, you're stacking present positive successful moments in your memory behind you, and you are altering the subconscious mind.
All
and your
right.
subconscious mind is going to get more successful and more positive, and it's going to start rotating. You're going to have this Groundhog Day of success and positivity because
Wow.
you're literally shifting your experience.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, here's the last of the 5 F's, and this is the one that we kind of started our story on, but it was before the 5 F's. When I was in that bed, I had to get very flexible in my mental process.
Okay.
Flexibility is the thing. See, whenever you're trying to go for any goal, something is always going to come up that's going to seem contrary to what you're trying to achieve.
Correct.
Right? So always. So you can decide, you can take the present moment belief that you're done and stop, or you can take the present moment belief that you're still going to reach your goal, that this obstacle is just part of the process.
Correct.
You see, if you are truly focused in your conscious mind on an outcome, your subconscious mind is showing you things. And if your subconscious mind is showing you things like that car,
Right.
if it's showing you this, it's telling you, okay, to get your goal, you have to deal with this, incorporate this, or push it aside.
Right.
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 So whatever obstacle comes up, it's just the thing you got to deal with to get to the goal, because no matter what, you're getting to your goal.
Correct. Right.
You have to stay flat. Bruce Lee would talk about being like water.
Right. Right. Be like, correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. You flow around it. You crash through it, but
right.
you could take the form of it, but it's literally about just remaining flexible in those moments when you come up against something that's difficult, something adverse.
Correct. Correct. I love that. I love that so much. When you was talking about following through right after faith, what came to mind was faith without works is dead. Like when they say that in the Bible, like you have to have faith is great, but without doing the work,
Right.
or taking action, it's just dead, right? And then the flexibility. So you see this in people who are extremely successful, and they tried they try to complete their businesses 10 or 12 times, sometimes more, and they go from one thing to it, but they never give up. And then you see the end result of all the success and think it happened overnight. But they had to overcome their fear, right? They had to overcome the fear. They had to maintain the focus. They had to maintain flexibility. I love it. So the 5F systems, everyone, we're going to have to send everyone invoices for that one, right? Because
well, actually, no.
Yeah.
Your audience is going to get a copy of the 5F workbook.
Wow.
I'm going to give you a link to that, and it's a free gift. And let me just say this. It's a free gift, which means I don't even get email addresses from it.
Okay.
It's going to go to the link and get there. My goal today is to give value, not to take from anybody.
Right.
So
right.
Today, I'm playing the karma game as aggressively as I can. I plan on leaving with more points than anybody else.
Correct. I love it. Thank you very much for that. Very much. Okay. We talk about the action hero, the corporate action hero, right? So you have all of this, and then you went from being paralyzed to not accepting that, working around the fear response, rebuilding your whole life, and going on to realizing your dreams. And then you take it to this broader sense where you this corporate action hero, where you're going into corporations and places and you're helping other people. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, for years and years and years, I did a comedy sword fighting show called Hack and Slash. And what was happening was I'd go on stage and I loved doing that show, sword fights, bullwhips, beds
Yeah.
of nails, crazy fun stuff, right?
Right.
Lots of comedy. But I discovered that I was really enjoying the time after the show more than the time on the stage.
Right.
And what I was doing after the show was I was sitting out near the stage and I was helping people reach their goals because of what I had learned getting over my own adversities.
Oh, wow.
And so I started seeing these people. I had one woman that I was working with who was agoraphobic. She never left her house.
Wow.
And I started talking to her. And after a year of working with her, she did a solo trip to Africa, climbed a mountain, and hung out with gorillas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about overcoming your fear, right?
Overcoming your fear, right? So I discovered that I was really passionate about this. I think if you discover something that helps you overcome a huge adversity like that, it's sort of your duty to share that, because we're all in this earth thing together. We're all in this experience here together.
Right.
And if we're not helping each other out, then we're wasting our time. Right. And
Right.
the word, so I started thinking, how do I take my whips and my swords and my nunchucks, and how do I still do that, because I enjoy doing that, and then also do this other work that I wanted to do. So I created the Corporate Action Hero, where I go into companies and I work with individuals on a very straight up level, usually through an entertainment level. I go in with a keynote, but I demonstrate in the room how these principles work. And I'll tell you, when I do a Corporate Action Hero speech, the main corporate speech, I do lots of different speeches, but
Right.
the main speech I do, the finale, I go out in the audience and I find the most timid person I can find.
Right.
And I bring that person to the stage. Now, sometimes that's in front of thousands of people.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So I know that their first fear is being in front of the audience because they're timid. Right. So I, as they come on the stage, I say, thank you so much for coming. I give them a lot of positive reinforcement. I turn to the audience and say, isn't she a rock star? Mm-hmm. And I start getting them to give her positive reinforcement so she feels good about being there. And then I said, we should just talk for a second, make sure we have a good rapport. I said, do you have any hobbies? And I lead her to talking about fishing.
Okay.
And once I get her into fishing, I said, today I'm going to teach you how to cast a fishing rod a different way. And she said, okay. And I hand her a bullwhip. Right.
I love it.
And in 5 minutes, she learns to crack the bullwhip and take targets out of my hand with the whip.
Wow.
Yeah, by using the 5F principle, because I'm alleviating her fear all the way through. Correct. I'm not talking about whips. I'm talking about fishing. So I'm keeping her in a calm state of mind. I'm making jokes about the whole process. I even get part of the audience to do fish faces.
Wow, nice.
Like
yes,
right. So she's laughing, having a good time. And then she cracks it. And then, okay, so here's an interesting mental trick, but it's also, anybody who comes to the stage, they can do anything. And I know they can do anything. And just having someone there who is with them, who knows they can, is huge. Right?
Correct.
The second part is that once she cracks it, once she gets that crack, I have to shift her out of the process she was in. The process she was in was learning the skill. Okay. I have to get her past that and into knowledge of the skill so she knows it. So I actually look at her and say, did you hear it crack? I get her to acknowledge that she made her to crack. I said, do it again. And she cracks again. So you cracked it again. She goes, yes. And so you already know how to make it crack. Right. You already know how to make it crack. So I say that like 3 times. So now I'm anchoring that she already knows how. Right. Then I make her do something that she has to remain mentally flexible for. I pull out a target and I hold the target out. Now, I know I've just dropped her back into fear like we discussed. Correct. People drop into fear, right? So her fear right now, she's going to hurt me.
Yes, right.
So I say, look at me, look me in the eye. I promise you're not going to hurt me. Sometimes you got to lie to people. It's just the way it is. Right. But I have to realize if I'm leading somebody through something stressful, It's their experience, not mine.
Correct.
I have to meet them where they are and bring them to where I want them to be. It's leading, not dragging, right?
Yes,
You're
yes.
leading them, not dragging them.
Correct.
Right?
Right. Right.
So once I get there to that point, so you already know how to make a crack. All I want you to do is focus right here and cast your fishing rod. And she does it, and she hits the target.
Amazing.
And it literally is, the famous line that I've already quoted, he says, whatever you ask in God's name is granted. But the line that comes right after that's the better line. And the line that comes right after that is, nothing will be impossible for you.
Amazing. Right.
And nothing is impossible for you.
Right. That's amazing. So, hey, it was a little bit of subconscious programming there, helping someone, get past their subconscious blocks, right? And those little barriers we build for ourselves, right? I mean, fear is something. Fear is very important. It's there for a reason, right? But like when I was studying like the autoimmunity and how people get sick, right? It was this prolonged fear response. That's the problem, right? This day and age, we register everything as that kind of saber-toothed tiger coming around the corner, right? But it's not really there. Yourself. It got to a point where my cell phone would ring and then I would get into a stress state, right? Maybe because of work, maybe because I have a lot going on. And this is one of the things that fuel addiction. This is one of the things that fuel mental health issues, right? That fundamental depression, anxiety, PTSD, not being able to break through PTSD. And what you're talking about, I love, because I recently learned about post-traumatic growth, right? You never hear about this. You only hear about, like you said, the negative stuff, PTSD, like the trauma, right? But out of trauma, there is the potential to grow, right? So to release that fear and stuff. And I think a lot of what you're doing is awakening the inner action hero and teaching people the 5 F's, is helping people grow through the fear and through that muck and mire of the fear and stuff. And I love it. I wanted to ask you, corporate action hero, why not superhero? What's the difference in your mind from the corporate action hero and superhero?
Well, first of all, let's think about what an action hero is.
Right.
Okay. The word action means create motion, start momentum, or to do something. The word hero is someone who achieves an extraordinary result in service of others. Nice. So that's why I chose action hero. Now, basically what that really means is that an action hero is an ordinary individual who can create an extraordinary result.
Right.
Superhero is somebody who wears their underwear on the outside of their pants, usually is irradiated by some sort of goo, and has superpowers.
Right.
And because they have superpowers, when they do super things, they're really slacking. They're really not doing anything out of their box.
Correct.
I'd much rather be an action hero.
Me too. I love that. So you taught us how to deal with our fears, how to overcome it and keep moving. You also taught us, we did speak about negative people. So I want to go back there for a minute, right? For a lot of us in recovery, right? What's the straightforward advice you would give us on dealing with that negative person, right? Like they're in our life, or you're never going to be anything. Maybe it's that programming coming from a negative parent. You're never going to amount to nothing. That nagging that sits with people for years. That's some of where the trauma starts from, our childhood. So how do we deal with negative aspects of our childhood trauma and people? I know that's loaded, but just mainly the negative.
Oh, no. I have a background myself. My grandfather and father were both alcoholics, and, I did break that cycle. So to me, yes, there are people in your life who will always be. My father was a very emotionally abusive person, very emotionally abusive. And unfortunately, of the 7 kids that he had, I was the one that took the brunt of the abuse. Right. And so I had to overcome a lot of that as well. But the interesting thing is when you get later in life, you have to realize when you're in your present moment, it's not theirs. Correct. Right? If you're allowing their emotional state to affect you, you're living their life and not your own. Right. You have to realize when they are in that state, they are in a very bad place. So the first thing you have to do if you want to help them is not go there with them. And because if you go there with them, you're just going to go down a spiral yourself with them. They're going to drag you down. When someone's drowning and you go out there to try to help them, a lot of times the person who tries to help gets drowned too. Because they get pulled under because they panic, right?
Right.
So the first thing you have to do is make sure you're very clear. The other thing you have to do is start giving them positive reinforcements about positive things, because trust is developed by results over time. And so if you want them to have trust and a positive outlook, you have to promote the positive. My father, the one piece of advice I got from my father was he says, 1-0 crap wipes out 1,000 attaboys.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Right.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But the interesting thing is you have to give the 1,000 attaboys
Amazing.
for the 1-0 crap to have the power. Right.
Correct.
So in this situation, I'll give you an example. I was in a restaurant one time, and I'll never forget this. Me and a guy were in a restaurant, and the server came over, and the first thing she said to us, I'll never forget this. She says, "I'm so sorry. I'm in a really bad mood, and it's going to affect your service in a negative way tonight."
Wow. That's
all right. The guy I was at dinner with got instantly mad.
Okay.
Because he dropped into her experience.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
What I said was, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Why don't you sit down? I'll serve you a meal, and I'll take care of the rest of your tables."
Wow. Right.
And she was like, "What?" And then I started just making jokes and laughing with her. And what happened was, by the end of dinner, she was hanging out at our table, laughing and joking, and we completely turned her experience. You see, I'm not going to invest in hers. I'm going to bring her to mine.
I love it. I love it.
You really just have to bring positive to people's lives.
That's amazing. That's transformative, right? And you could take it. I had an experience about 2 years ago where my a really close person in my life, I'll just say that, they I reached out to them, tried to get in touch with them. They wrote me back this really nasty, negative letter. And at the time, I didn't understand as much as I know now. Even though it was 2 years, I grew a lot. But I actually read it and I took all of that negativity in, right? And then I was out of state. So I was in Massachusetts. I live in New York. So I had to drive back with all of that in me from New York. When I got to New York, my lower back went out. I literally damaged my lower back. I was out of work for weeks. I had to sit with a cushion behind my back to this day. It was just a lot. And I realized that if unprocessed emotions get stuck in the body, right? They have this new doctor that has this great, I forget the name, but the concept is the body keeps the score, right? When you're not able to process these emotions. And that's just even if you feel like crying, cry. If you feel like hitting the punching bag, or if you feel like forgiving, forgive. But try to find some avenue to let these things go, because that would keep you in the fear response or something close to it, right? That negative response, it's all there. It's where you keep replaying the negative incident in your head over and over, and your body's reliving it because the brain doesn't know that it's not happening again because you're constantly thinking about it or rereading it. The brain just thinks, "Oh, here we go again," and your body reacts, and it's just a negative cycle. So. Go ahead.
You know the story about the two Zen Buddhist monks who come to the raging river, and it's the older monk and the younger monk, and they get there and there's a woman on the shore, and the woman says, "I can't get across. Can you help me across?" And the Zen Buddhists aren't allowed to touch women.
Right.
And the master, without thinking, grabs the woman, throws her up on his shoulder, and carries her across the river and sets her down. And they keep walking down the road after the other side, the master and the student walking down the road. And suddenly, about 1.5 miles down the road, the student said, "Master, how dare you? How dare you? You know we're not allowed to touch women. Why'd you pick her up?" And the master says, "I put her down at the riverbank. Why are you still carrying her?"
Wow, that's heavy. That's love. Wow, I like it. That hit me. I like that. Why you still carry her? There you go.
Why are you still carrying her? Right?
That's
you're living
right.
her. You're living that negativity.
Wow.
You let things go. Buddha would talk about lack of attachment. Don't get attached to negative things. Get attached to the nirvana, the possibility of that wonderful feeling of bliss. I meditate twice a day for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is so that I don't have back issues, because we carry our stress in our back. Right. And so by keeping myself meditated twice a day, my world goes so much smoother. I kind of skimmed over it earlier. When I started doing this process of meditation and staying very present, I literally have been to 30 countries. I have climbed Mount Sinai. I climbed Machu Picchu. I swam in the Blue Lagoons of Iceland. I have been inside the pyramids of Giza. I have wandered the streets of Jerusalem and Galilee and Capernaum. I've stood on the hillside of Bethesda. I've been everywhere, all over the world. Right. I have worked with movie stars. I have done crazy sword fights. I have done an incredible life. Right. But it's all a matter of keeping my mindset very clear and smooth and just choosing and doing. That's why I don't believe in affirmations. I believe in declarations.
Nice.
Because I think even affirmations are a soft, flabby word, which means I'm trying to shore something up that's not positive. Right. That's what I'm affirm it. Right. So no, I just declare. I take the words of Yoda very seriously. Do or do not. There is no try.
Right. I love that. I love that. Declarations is kind of like decrees, right? Like when you do a spiritual decree, that's what I used to practice that a lot. I have to get back into that. You taught us so much today. I mean, John, thank you so much. A meditation, like I want to close there because that's something that I've been trying to really talk to the community about as a form of that's the right medication. I think like that's how you get off of the prescription drugs. That's how you get out of the anxiety medications and stuff like that. We know that the brain comes alive through meditation. You can activate both parts of your brain. You get the full brain experience. It's healthy. And I also tell people sometimes it's not about a spiritual practice. It's about calming your nervous system down, collecting your thoughts, healing your mind and your brain, and start there. Then you will uncover the spiritual aspects. I study under the transcendental a little under the Vedic. So I do my meditation with I close my eyes, try to do it between 15 to 20 minutes, 2 times a day, like you say, and I utter some type of mantra or something to keep my thoughts centered. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but that's usually what works for me. And I like to tell people that the crazy thoughts that you're trying to calm down, just find a way to be aware of them, because after a while they go away. Right? They don't stay there forever. Like you just have
and the big secret to meditation,
right.
Most people don't think they can meditate.
Right.
And it's because those thoughts pop into their head.
Right.
The people who become very good meditators are the ones who keep doing it until the quiet times last longer.
Nice. Right.
I do 40 minutes in the morning, 40 minutes in the evening.
Oh, 40
every day. And I started with mantras and all that. Now I literally close my eyes and dip right into a bliss state.
Oh, you could go right in.
I go right in every time.
Oh, wow.
And it's interesting because, with addiction, we're all trying to get a state where we're kind of medicating our fears.
Correct.
And the reality of it is that I get so much more from that bliss state in meditation. I'm sitting here, I'm getting goosebumps now as I'm talking about it because I feel it,
Right.
That bliss state is so much better than any alcohol that I ever drank in my life,
right.
or even better than the pizza I ate tonight. Right.
Correct.
Whatever your addiction is, that's what you're just trying to medicate your fear so you can get to that place of this feeling that we get naturally.
Beautiful. So any tips for beginners or people who's on the fence? Like where should they start with meditation? What do you recommend?
Quite literally, go on YouTube and find yourself a nice visualization one that you can listen to. Correct. Just start there, because sometimes having that thing to focus on gives you, for years ago when I was doing some meditations, I would meditate and then I would do subliminal meditations while I slept. I'd play them while I slept. Correct. And I got to the point where I'd turn it on and the first sentence I was gone. Instantly, right? And they would play for 8 hours and I'd wake up and I'd feel great. And then I go meditate the way I meditate.
Right.
But the thing was that just take an action. You have to realize that today's choices are tomorrow's outcomes.
Right.
And so if you're gonna have a different tomorrow, you've got to think, do, and say the things right here and now. And Shakespeare once said, "Words without thoughts never to heaven go." You have to realize that you can't just say it. You got to do it.
Right. It takes us back to follow through, right? Do the work, okay, and be flexible. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Davis, the amazing John Davis. John, thank you so much today. I didn't even, we did everything I wanted to do, but I had no idea this was going to be so pure. This has been a really pure blessing. Thank you so much, because I could feel your spiritual work, and I needed that today. Sometime I'm out here and I'm always trying to, and you helped me to kind of redirect my mission today and to remember what's important, and that we could overcome these. If we overcome these fundamental things, we could go to the moon and back. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, can you let anyone know where they could find you and any final thoughts? The floor is yours.
Yes. So I'm easy to find, corporateactionhero.com. And you can go there. You can find my Facebook and all that. It's on that page. I put out a daily video for motivational, just a short little motivational. Basically, I find a quote that I find interesting and I expand on it a little bit.
Okay.
I have a podcast on there called Interaction Hero.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun. The link, you're going to have to get the link in the show notes because it's got a really long, sort of drawn out link.
Yeah.
But you won't find it on the page. This is strictly for podcast audiences.
Okay.
And in closing, one of the things I would say is this: we live in the I am moment. We live in this present moment, and whatever you're putting after I am is what you're creating. So if you're putting words like trying, or wanting, or needing, or hoping, God's going to lovingly giving you wanting, needing, hoping, and trying. And that is not a good feeling.
Right.
Choose creative words, put after your I am. I am enjoying, I am creating, I am living, exciting life. I am. But don't put words that are inactive in your present moment.
I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the best, John Davis. You're listening to the So Biz Dope podcast. Please re-listen to this episode. I promise you, with all my years, this episode will give you the key to what you're looking for on your journey of recovery. I love you all. And John, thank you so much. God bless you. And everyone, I'll catch you all on the other side. Go in peace and love. Thank you.